Power to the people.
So this is our session 0 for our Queen's Light work. And we're going to be going through a bit of the campaign frame tonight. My name is Austin. I go by Porcupine Jukebox, P Jukebox, Javelin Entertainment, a bunch of things online. But Javelin Entertainment is the big kind of group that where we do a lot of our live plays for D&D 5e is what we're still in right now. But we're doing a lot of different explorations over there. So if you want to see other live plays, you can check that out on that side. But also active within the TPD Discord and community. And so just the quick pitch of this game. This is a game all about a group of experienced fairy warriors and adventurers who are being called home to their capital city of Silkhaven by the Fairy Queen. Something has gone terribly wrong, and all wandering fairies are being recalled to assist in saving their home. This is a short-term game that blends the whimsical nature of Daggerheart with a dark fantasy setting, and the game is influenced by Roguelike and Soulslike games and explores horror suspense with dungeon crawling, modular gameplay, all while preserving the whimsical nature and focus on cinematic action that is present in Daggerheart, and the deep character connections and roleplay that we'd like to preserve there. In Silkhaven, characters and NPCs maintain a light humor despite the dark world they live in, and benefits are provided as the world is explored and challenging bosses are defeated. So that's the rough idea of the game. When we're talking about tone and feel, it's kind of a mix of these dark, creepy terror aspects without going full horror.
I was so excited when you came and said, hey, I've got this campaign frame for Daggerheart. You want to test it out? And we all said, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. I'll take photos.
And this is not the first that we've gone into this realm. We've actually had a little bit of a precursor. And so this very much builds on that same world, but about 100 years, give or take, later. And so when we're talking about that time frame, it's a lot of years, but it's not kind of the same as in humans. These are Fae. Most of the people who have lived and existed under this unified Silkhaven their entire lives. And they've gone out into the world to kind of bring this unity elsewhere. And so this vision of the Queen Hazvan was the mother. She kind of brought together Silkhaven in this dream of harmony, this realm where the Fae queendoms that were long divided by these ancient rivalries could kind of coexist together. But now, years later, they have had that unity, they've had that success, and they're trying to bring it out to the darkness of the world. And so Silkhaven is kind of a isolated space that can be easily dropped into any other world. And so the world doesn't matter as much as the realms of Silkhaven itself, but these Fae have all been sent out as adventurers, as heroes to the realm to try and bring the light of Silkhaven to darkness. And now something has happened, and the new queen, Queen Ariana, has now sent out this song on the winds that is calling everyone back, and no one really knows why. And then some of the touchstones, the most obvious one that is kind of the core inspiration for this is Hollow Knight. If anyone hasn't set their sights on that game, it is super fun. Even if you're not into like roguelikes or boss battlers or platformers, which are all a major portion of that, the game is super unique and definitely recommend it. Other things like Inscription, Elden Ring, The Looking Glass Wars, The Dark Queen of Morthulm, other roguelikes and roguelites and deck builders all kind of took a hand in kind of influencing this. Especially as we start getting into the game, you'll see some more unique mechanics that are very related to those types of games as well. As far as Silkhaven itself, this vision of Silkhaven kind of culminated in a radiant set of cities and life woven from the very essence of Fae magic. It's nestled underground, so it's a little bit different of a city than most would expect. Kind of at the heart of this set of mountains known as the Veilspire Peaks, at the edge of one of our ethereal forests known as the Gossamer Wilds, this paradise has been built up, and it is beautiful, and it is this sanctuary of natural, magical place that is unlike any place else in the world. And per its namesake, the Queen Hazavan's dream created a true haven where all the Fae could kind of thrive in peace, shielded from the darkness of the outside world, or so it was promised. All of the different Fae queendoms that were unified have differing opinions on how well that's worked and how well their fortunes have kind of been brought out because of that. And so Queen Hazaven has now passed away, and her daughter Queen Ariana has begun to kind of foresee that promise to the new world. And so decades of bringing this light of Silkhaven out into the world has extended the view Fae had for their world, and has established many Fae as fearsome warriors, legendary adventurers. And now these seasoned heroes that are scattered across have suddenly begun to receive these whispers, this call, and this desperate plea from Queen Ariana that speaks of dangers that are beginning to stir. The protective wards that have kept the city safe are starting to fail. And so everybody's kind of rushing back to see what this is and how they can help. And so for you all are one of those Fae, and you've begun to hear these whispers on the breeze, this song from their queen in Silkhaven, kind of this plea to return back, and kind of this mysterious thing where this message has gone out to everyone everywhere in this strange magical emanation, but it's very vague, and whispers and rumors are starting to be kind of communicated as Fae are coming together into these adventuring parties. So for us, this group of Fae has banded together to investigate, and they're on the edge of these Gossamer Wilds, preparing for their final travel to their home. They're united by their perceived loyalty to their queen and their concern for their home, but bearing personal quests and motives that could risk the entire mission. These fairy warriors must confront the encroaching darkness, and they must unravel the mystery of this ancient evil and restore the balance that has been disrupted. Their journey within Silkhaven will be fraught with peril. Old alliances will be tested, and new heroes will rise. The time has come for the fairies to stand together once more. The call has been issued. Are they ready to answer?
Answer the call. I'm gonna be there.
So that is the scope of the game, and the scope of the world around it. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Not one from me.
No, I'm ready to.
Not yet.
I'm ready to party.
Not.
Do you like to party?
I like
Perfect.
to party.
I like to party.
Do you like to party with party?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fae party. The
Come on,
best
Marty.
kind of party that there is.
Fae party. Yeah, and so that's I'm going to go over just a couple things to keep in mind when building these characters, because it is a bit of a unique situation, where the first thing is that while this game could be played at many different levels, and for us we're going to be starting mechanically at level 1, all of these characters are expected to be seasoned adventurers. It's important that you guys have experienced kind of the success and loss in this outer world. You have experience with life and death, and have come charged with your opinions and experience on it. And so as we kind of talk through these characters, we want to pull out what their past heroic deeds were, or where they had tragic sacrifices or glorious victories. You want to have that history going into this, because this game, because it is kind of condensed, is going to pull on that history to make those roleplay moments, rather than kind of focusing around generating new ones. And so we'll kind of build on a lot of existing trauma or existing opinions, as much as we'll have opportunities to kind of see those manifest.
Yeah, create new
Those.
drama. Just like real life.
But bugs.
Exactly.
You picked the right crew for this, Austin.
But bugs. And that's kind of the hope, and one of the things that I loved with Hollow Knight is it allows you to kind of distance from some things that might be more traumatic, and explore things in a way that kind of has that abstraction by being the Fae. And because you are Fae don't really have traditional sets of morals. And so even though this isn't direct connections to a lot of the traditional Feywilds or Irish folklore, there's still a lot of influence in that. And so I encourage you guys to kind of find ways to flex that unique morality or strange nature, while still being respectful to the other players and to the world, but to be able to find different ways to look at it. And especially if you can relate those ways back to a queendom or a set of morals that comes with that set.
As we were setting up for this and Austin was getting to know us as a party, we filled out, of course, our little surveys and talked about our personal X cards, and one of mine is bugs, and Austin had to go... you read the campaign.
You know what this game is, right?
Like, let's heal that trauma while we're at it. My relationship with bugs. This is immersion therapy that we're putting through right now.
We can do it. We can do it.
These are going to be the cutest bugs you've ever seen. And you're also going to get validation through crushing them
Not
underneath
all.
your weapon. And that is the last kind of piece that is really important, is this game, as with the games that have kind of inspired it, is very much about exploring death and dying. And so most games, you want to protect your character at all costs, and dying is really scary. Dying is still scary in this game. But there's a lot more opportunity to try and explore the really cool death and dying mechanics in Daggerheart, because it's a really unique aspect of the game that we wanted to try and bring to light with this game system. And so there will be often characters having deaths. There are some common ways to kind of resurrect, but there is still the possibility of permadeath. And we'll get into that all during the game, so we don't need to get into the details now, but you should be familiar and kind of have some bravery in diving into what that looks like, and especially exploring the line of like when you get close to death, making that decision in character and understanding what outcomes it could have, whether you come back, how does that change your character, or if this is the final moment, how are you going to go out, and feel free of seeing how that evolves if it happens multiple times.
I love
I
it.
promise Evan with a
love
good
it.
time.
Yeah, Evan really was handpicked for this.
So hopefully it'll be fun. Hopefully it'll definitely give you a unique look into a tabletop experience that might not be as familiar to a lot of standard ways that we kind of approach games like D&D.
I'm so ready.
I'm so ready as well.
Now we can just jump straight in into the character creation, which is a bit unique. And so if you guys haven't opened up the campaign frame, please do, because there are some pieces that you might want to reference. The ancestries are the big thing. All ancestries are still allowed that are present in Daggerheart, but they've been shifted to become bug fairies now. The only two that we don't have unlocked right now are Fungrel and Clank. So sorry. Liz.
Okay, look, I can branch out. This is an opportunity for me to not be a tiny little mushroom. Like, I can do other things. Yeah.
Everybody loves tiny mushrooms. Now you can be a tiny little ant fae
Whatever
instead.
it is, it's going to be adorable. We know that much.
Yeah. So those ancestries do exist in Silkhaven, but Silkhaven is an expanding world, and this is only the first step into what that larger world is. And so we'll kind of discover things as we continue and as we go. But all those bug fairies are in there, everything from moths to ants to centipedes. There's some reference images, and they've kind of been related to an existing Daggerheart ancestry, so that in the plane or in demi-plane, you can still choose those and it'll kind of work. Some of them have just been kind of edited to fit the thematics in name. But you also have the flexibility, if you really want to custom heritage, if you want to kind of create your own bug fairy and kind of take the pieces, yes, that is still totally allowed. More commonly than not in Silkhaven, beetles are the most common fae. And so if that's kind of an easy one that you can pretty much find any beetle that can kind of work. But if you want to be a moth that actually flies, you can kind of pool that one that's from the original fairy, and now I think is on the butterfly, if I remember right, and can kind of mix and match if you want to kind of make that exactly into the fae that you envision.
And I'm not sold on this, but there is one bug that I actually do have an affinity for that's not represented. Are you open to like reskins of some of the things with a different bug? Okay.
Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely, yeah. These are just suggestions, and they were kind of provided to be the easiest analogous ones to the ones that are presently there, just to make it easy entry for people.
How do you want us to do this?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is up to you guys to discuss. If you want to share ideas, if you want to build this, and you can kind of move in between ancestries, classes, communities. There's some guidelines if you want to know more about Silkhaven to kind of weave that in, but we can kind of get into that later if we want to. And then really what's going to be critical towards the end is that there are new character questions and connection questions based on your class and your ancestries.
I have 2 ideas I'd like to pitch out, and if it doesn't fit in with the vibe of what others are thinking, then I'm also happy to go back. Do y'all want me to start, or does anybody else want to go first?
Let's hear it.
So kind of the 2 ideas that were starting to kind of come into my mind was this fae who had a dance with death, like who has died once, came back, but doesn't necessarily know how. and like with this world of Silkhaven, like it just kind of seemed to fit in there because like what's going on right now is starting to feel very like uncannily familiar to her with the powers that be. So when I was asking if we could reskin one, I love the idea. I love a firefly, a lightning bug, wherever in the world you're from and whatever you call that. And kind of tagging that to the elf to pick instead of a centipede there. Not sold on the class yet. Initial thoughts were maybe druid or sorcerer for that one, but not married to that. And then the other idea that I had, because again, this is a bug that I actually like, which is the ladybug, which is played as a halfling, and playing this very like over lucky little ladybug, like should have bit the bullet long ago, but for whatever reason is always able to be like last one standing on the battlefield. Almost like a ticking time bomb. Like when is her luck gonna run out, and is it gonna be at the worst possible time? And so for that, like I said, I was thinking ladybug. I've already played a rogue in Daggerheart. It feels like a rogue to me, but part of me is like, I need to branch out and play some classes I haven't played. So I thought that one could be a fun one as a bard, which I haven't gotten to play in Daggerheart yet. Or we could go a more like fighter archetype if the whole like luck running out on the battlefield thing would be interesting.
Well, that's really strange because for personal reasons, number one, I've never played a halfling in my entire life that I remember. And my family, my mom and my grandmother have been obsessed with ladybugs. That's kind of their symbol. So that's really weird that you said that, AK and Bard, because that was my immediate thing. But I don't want to take away. You said it first.
But that's why I came with two. And like I said, I'm happy to like based on what y'all are thinking and feeling drawn towards. I'm not. This is not me planting a flag by any means. And
No. Yeah, but you know, as far as family goes, Evan also has claim to Ladybug, so as well.
If you want him, come and claim him.
Come and claim him. But yeah, the idea of a tiny bard. But I have to look at classes again, so I'll be quiet now, and y'all can speak now.
Lima bean.
And I won't say too much about the kind of preview session that we had, but those characters are still very much in the story. Again, it's been imagine it being like half of their lifespan since then. So they're going to be on the older side, but they are possible choices, or family or friends of them could be possibly choices. So if that changes or if that brings new ideas, those are all certainly in play as well.
I love little Iris. She was fucking cute.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
It's funny that Bard is the thing that we're all arguing over. But I will say though that like that's the one that's like the least potential of my list. So I also had two ideas. Obviously one of them is a bumblebee. Are we surprised?
Nope.
But I did try to branch out too. I was like, it's a little bit too obvious and also neat for me to pick a bumblebee. I wanna keep my mind open to other things, and I really did enjoy the lore that went with the moths.
The moths
So
cool.
this is why I'm like maybe not leaning this way, because it feels very comfortable for me, which is a bumblebee who enjoys tasting the pollens of the world, like a pollen connoisseur, which felt sort of
Pollensor, if you will.
a pollensaur, yeah, which felt a little bit more bard-like, like far traveler kind of situation. Potentially, maybe even a ranger, because looking for bees, whatever. But I was thinking probably a bard for that, if they're a connoisseur of fine delicacies. And then the second thought I had was doing a moth, and I was actually kind of thinking potentially like a rogue. Like a moth rogue situation.
Rogues are, because I have gotten to play a full campaign in Daggerheart as a rogue. So fun, and you especially, I think, would. There's stuff you would love.
I think for me, the comfortable choice would be like a round, fluffy ass bumblebee bard situation. The the not comfort zone, potentially interesting would be like a moth.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue.
Like a moth to the flame.
I'll say with moths and butterflies kind of tend to extremes of magic, and so a lot of moths are kind of like prominent religious figures, or are kind of studious academics, or some are even kind of deep into the occult. And so if you're interested in doing like a rogue moth, having like a Nightwalker spin of manipulating dark
Ooh,
magic
that's
could be
kind
a
of-
way to
yeah.
explore that
That's
as
kind of
well.
where I was
That's
thinking the
pretty
occult.
nice.
Okay.
Spin.
And I personally would love to see Fitz go against
Yeah,
the
I
grain.
know. That's why I was like, I gotta do something, because doing like a bumblebee who loves pollen is a little too close to like Herb and Dottie. Like I gotta branch out a little bit.
Yeah.
We can switch. We can go. I could take Fluffy and
Yeah,
and
you could
cute.
be the cute one this
Full
time.
goth.
Yeah.
I could be the vigilante.
I mean, I don't know if I can.
Well, and that's
We'll
like
see. We would see.
that is making the case more, especially knowing that Matt wants both Ladybug and Bard. That is really funny that you and I both came to the table with Ladybug Bards, because I was going to lean into the cuteness of that one, which is also my comfort zone. If I go with the other one, I could lean into like a darker side that I don't usually play either.
Right.
I want to see.
I want to be dark. I want to be
I want to be a little bit more gothy this time.
night.
Evan, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
I have 3 options that I've been noodling on. One is a moth, kind of an occult-based druid type of thing.
What?
Interesting.
Uh,
Lay it down.
one and the
Telling
other is
Discord right now.
What's that?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
telling Discord right now. Evan
said
wants to play a
druid.
druid. You heard it here first.
You made
I didn't say I
Daggerheart very
wanted to play a druid. I said I'm considering.
Yeah.
But I did. But
okay.
the one character that I have the most experience with in Daggerheart is a druid, so that's not actually my first choice.
Okay.
Although if I did go that route, if I did go a moth, it was gonna be a death's head moth, which to whomever is a moth and a rogue, I bequeath the death's head moth detail to you. Because especially if you're going to be a rogue and a moth, I mean, come on. There's only one kind of moth you can be,
on.
right?
Yeah.
My second idea was a guardian scarab beetle. Just a big old tank type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third was a rogue. And it sounded fun. The would you in Ferris, but a wasp, the wasp assassin rogue.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Oof.
So that sounded pretty sexy. I think between the two, if rogue is taken, then I would happily do guardian. If you go somewhere else, then the rogue might be my first choice.
So maybe at this point, while we're kind of thinking about the different concepts, I'll kind of take a moment to talk through some of the communities and what they look
Yeah.
like in Silkhaven, and you can see if anything resonates with you guys. So just going through the communities, the first one up is Highborn. And so in Silkhaven, Silkhaven was created to bring together all of the Fae queendoms. In the Fae here are queendoms instead of kingdoms, and so they have female figures of power. Outside of one instance in the spiders that is kind of unique and different. But these various queens, their families, they all have associated courts that form this highborn community. And like I said, some of them are old enough that they remember the time before they were unified and what their queendoms were like before they bowed to this kind of true queen in Hazavan and now Ariana. Though almost all the queens have kind of passed on, a lot of the courts kind of exist, and certainly a lot of those mixed feelings of the various assigned lots after that unity have been maintained. And so along with whispers and rumors of what have kind of happened to those who openly opposed the unity in the past. For the Loreborn, these are kind of members of the Fae courts, could be ones that kind of pursue political interests, but more often than not are related to the number of academic institutions. And so we talked about moths finding themselves here in kind of libraries or studies of science and arcane, but there's also centipedes that have set up observatories and kind of orreries to understand celestial bodies. And then the butterflies, who have kind of been known to have a fascination with extreme magics of sorcery and intense magical artifacts. There's the kind of main city of industry known as Tadeboro that kind of buzzes with intellectuals on more of the artifice side. And so there's a bustling kind of industry there that is booming, and kind of one of the only places that Silkhaven really deals with like exports and imports to the rest of the world. And so that's kind of the core entry city, if you will. For the Orderborn, these characters are kind of ones that were sent out into the world, or rather than traveling there by choice. And so perhaps they might have been a soldier offered as kind of reinforcements. They might have had some attempts, secret or otherwise, to establish like sanctuaries outside of Silkhaven. So perhaps they were of a different queendom that wanted to kind of set up their own place. Or there might be some sort of new power that they've been kind of called to spread. So some like religious organizations or new gods or deities, things like that they might be trying to proselytize. Ridgeborn, Silkhaven is underground, so there are lots of caves and caverns. So the Ridgeborn communities are more inclined to that rock and stone, and so a lot of ants that have worked and toiled hard to build the cities. And then some large beetles are also utilized to like clear out and terrace space for new development and make these cities. We've got the Seaborn. There's no true seas in Silkhaven since it is underground, but there are many of these underground lakes and rivers that kind of bring this strong personality to this community. The city of Goldenleaf is kind of the cultural and mercantile center of Silkhaven, and that brings all of your theater, your music, your arts, this vibrant mixing pot of a port city. And there's this river that flows into Goldenleaf that kind of comes from an entrance opposite of the one from Tadeboro, and kind of weaves its way through some wetlands and crystal formations. And so there's some really unique communities that can tend to pop up there, or along some of the military forts that are stationed at those edges that can kind of be associated with that Seaborn community. Then for kind of some of our darker ones, we've got our Slyborn. Silkhaven is not always perfect, and sometimes there are shaded corners where darker deals occur. And so the Slyborn community is typically those. There's a lot in the city of Goldenleaf, where the outside world can kind of seep in and leak in. Sometimes the same thing in Tadeboro. Those are kind of the two largest cities with the most diversity, and so there's a lot of corners for what bits of crime do kind of spread up or do kind of happen. And the Butterfly Queendom, there's kind of rumors of their attempts to recreate some stronger magics, and similar with the Moth Queendoms, they've been kind of experimenting with the occult. And there's also the unexplained quirkiness of that singular kingdom of the spiders that operates deep in the shadows below. And all the queendoms kind of suspect they're up to no good, but nobody's really seen them for a long time, to be sure. We've got the Underborn. There's a lot of subsurface insects and likewise many subsurface fae here in Silkhaven. The Underborn community are often those who dwell in kind of the deepest, darkest corners. So you've got your spiders, your centipedes, some beetles, but others like termites prefer kind of the isolated work of mining within their colony and are not often seen outside within a lot of the larger portions of the city. Wanderborn. Wanderborn communities are frequently found along the edges of Silkhaven, where the communities kind of continue to spread further from the overpopulated interior. And so most notably, there's some to the far east of Silkhaven that are kind of nomadic and travel across this like sandy, dusty landscape. But there are also the fae in the wetlands that are kind of spread out and kind of have kind of a more backwoods mentality. Those, like I said, stationed along the external forts that might not make it to the cities very often. And even those that wander through large mushrooms forests that might be the members of kind of like a nomadic community. Mm-hmm. And then finally, last but not least, we have the Wildborn. And Wildborn are probably the most rare they're actually those who are not naturally born within Silkhaven itself. So they weren't sent out. They're kind of parents or their progeny of people who are already outside. And so while they have distant relations to Silkhaven, they've never actually been there. And so they often have a stronger connection to some other homeland that has kind of defined them. So I'm not sure if that helps or makes it more hard, but those are how the communities have been shifted.
where I mean, Allison and I still have to work it out, but where would, for example,
No, I'm
ladybugs
totally giving
be?
you. No, that's yours. I think we all landed on a. I have questions about my class still. I think just making sure like party fit and balance wise. But you are taking the ladybug and the bard, my friend.
I'm honored.
For most insects, they have a lot of flexibility. There's some kind of suggestions. Ladybugs and beetles in general are pretty much found everywhere.
Okay.
And so outside of some of the more like isolated communities, like the nomadic ones on the sands, you're pretty much you could find them wherever you like.
Okay. But I was just thinking, because the ladybugs don't actually come from a queendom. They don't have a queendom, right?
Yeah. All of the kind of beetle adjacent ones all kind of had no distinct queendom, and they kind of all aligned under this true queen of Hazavan. And that's how she was kind of able to rise to power so quickly, is because how many different types of beetles were kind of ununified by these various queendoms that had kind of set up their cliques. And so that's kind of how all this unity discussion and this building of Silkhaven originally started. So it sounds like you're dialing in on that kind of ladybug bard, Matt?
I think I am. Ladybug bard.
I want my ladybug.
I'm dialing in. I still have to think about where and more, but yeah, I feel pretty strong.
So my question, if I'm kind of already going, leave it to me to try and go off script. Sorry, Austin. Heart and soul gets poured into this, and I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah, I know.
Good.
Did all this work,
Fine.
AK.
Well, I want to take the work that you've already done and just play a bug that I love, is really what's happening here. So if you are willing to let me play a firefly, I was originally thinking elf, but now I'm wondering if maybe firefly more closely aligns with fairy, similar to the way you've kind of written in for butterfly.
And if you want to take a piece of both to create that custom lineage, you can more than welcome to play that.
I actually love that idea of the mixed ancestry for between elf and fairy. Feels real good. And then then you tell me, as far as the community goes, I mean, the ones that stood out to me the most were Wanderborn and Wildborn, for what I'm thinking. But if Firefly would fit in better elsewhere, I'm happy to.
Wanderborn is always an option and kind of the easiest one if you don't want to have kind of distinct connections to a particular place. And I will say that Fireflies have one of the more kind of concrete queendoms in kind of their beliefs, but they do kind of fit into that Wanderborn mentality, where they're kind of like not quite nomadic, but they're very community based, and that community can drift from place to place. But they're all kind of in a tight-knit group. And so where like the bees and the ants kind of sit up in a singular place, the fireflies all kind of drift and wander as they kind of have their relaxed, not quite hippie community, but in that realm.
Okay, so it sounds like so if we're locking in Ladybug Bard, it sounded like Evan and Fitz, correct me if I'm wrong, Fitz was leaning Moth, and what class were you leaning if you go that route?
The class
You were
is the
doing
one that I'm
rogue?
Yeah, that's the one that I'm struggling with the most. I think for sure I'm leaning Moth. I think for sure I'm leaning Slyborn.
Okay.
And I think I'm being drawn in a number of different ways at the moment. I think Rogue feels strong, but I could also be swayed by Wizard or Seraph.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Rogue.
Talk to me more about how you see this moth, about their personality, what they do, rather than tying it directly to a class. Think of like what you want them to be like, or maybe what is driving them, and then we can kind of see how that aligns or how that can be adapted to the story.
Yeah, And honestly, I think that might be what's splitting me a little bit. Because I'm thinking for sure occult, and I'm thinking that it's sort of that they're like trying to get to the bottom of a question. I don't know what that question is yet. We will find out the more lore we learn, but that maybe they're either like some sort of operative, or they've left the library, the Both library, in order, like there's some question that they're absolutely obsessed with answering, and they just kept running into walls with the theory of the question rather than putting toe beans to ground and looking for the answer. So for that, and whether that's like having to leave because running into roadblocks of like this information is not accessible by you by the correct means, or it's we're sending you to find the answer. I haven't decided what feels better. So, and that's kind of where I'm split with potentially like Rogue being the like, I've left to find the illicit information that I've been told I cannot have. Whereas like something like a wizard would be like potentially more like operative, investigate and bring back the information. And I'm feeling pulled by either of those options.
Yeah, and something for everybody to think of too is like not only just what you were doing in Silkhaven, but why did you become an adventurer that left to kind of bring these things? And so I think for yours, it's kind of trying to get those answers in some way or another. And so you mentioned a couple of classes there. I think if you went with like a rogue flavor on that, investigating the kind of occult with the Slyborn kind of community, you get this flavor of kind of existing within the darker corners of one of these larger cities, kind of working with maybe some sort of cabal or organization that kind of drifted into some nebulous things. And then you found out something that was like, oh, this is a line. I need to get out of here. This is suddenly more dangerous than I ever thought. And kind of the questions related to that. In the wizard or seraph realm, so moths especially, there's actually a kind of religion directly associated with a lot of moths, with the light, and this kind of new deity that has come being kind of proposed by this figure known as Sister Radiance. And that is kind of akin to some occult-like activities, and there's a lot of rumors around whether it's actually a religion, whether it's actually a cult, what's going on, and why is this deity new? Why did we never hear about it before? And so maybe there were some questions around that. Maybe you got too deep into that, and now that kind of church or cult or however you want to look at it is kind of coming after you, and that's why you had to leave. Or on the wizard side, perhaps you could have been something like the more hands-on or martial kind of inquisitor style of the academic branch, those who were kind of sent out to hunt down this knowledge that needed to be kept safe, and trying to find these different things and bringing it back. And maybe one time you opened a book or a letter that you weren't supposed to and saw something that kind of unlocked have I been doing the wrong thing? And so those are kind of different paths that I could see as potential ideas for those. What about you, Evan? Are you leaning towards this guardian, or have you adjusted ideas at all?
I mean, I think I am. I mean, especially if that opens up rogue for Fitz. But I think I have a vision for this guy. I mean, guardians are paladin-like, right? Not necessarily with a religious belief per se, but possibly part of a formal battalion. You know, kind of that's their job. So I'm thinking of a character who left Silkhaven, not to get overly tragic about it, but something happened to his battalion that kind of forced him out into the world to either seek atonement, or maybe he's coming back to Silkhaven to seek atonement for whatever happens. And he kind of, a strong, silent type who kind of hides a bit of sadness with, covers it up with humor. Kind of idea.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Do you have any idea of what community that might align with, or would you like suggestions?
Ridgeborn, I think, for sure, especially like since scarabs and beetles are kind of dwarf archetypes, right? Feels like his upbringing was deep in the kind of more remote sections of the caverns, and then grew up to be in whatever the formal guard is, and maybe even rose to some position of like not just a grunt, but maybe also not like a super high up officer, but somewhere in between, and enough to maybe like be the leader of his own battalion. But the drive to protect is really fueled by whatever this inciting incident was in his past, where he felt like he maybe didn't succeed. Now he has to succeed at all costs. His job is to protect, and that's it. He will step in front of his friends and just take them hits. Give me them hits. I even maybe have a name.
Ooh, okay.
If we're at that stage, or I can sit on it.
Yeah, go for it.
Thinking
I have
absolutely.
Marrow. Marrow is his name.
names. Love that.
I think I've made my. I think I know what I want. I'm gonna do.
All right,
I'm
hit
gonna
me
do
with it.
Moth. I'm gonna do Rogue. I'm gonna do Slyborn, and their name is Guy.
Guy.
Yeah,
Guy Fieri.
Guy? Like French? Guy?
sure. It's just like, you got a
guy.
guy.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
You know a
That's
That's
my
what
guy.
people
guy.
say about you.
Got a guy.
That's our guy.
It's a guy.
I love it. With Evan on the Scarab, and kind of connecting up to Ridgeborn, do you see that as more in kind of the rock and construction or mines, or do you see that more in kind of the leaning into the Scarab and going for like the sands and sandstone and the edge of the community?
Ooh. That's a great question.
And you can sit on that for a little bit, but it's more the proximity that you want to have, where the rocks are kind of the central, and so you'll be closer to the cities or kind of see these things passing by, whether or not you interact with them, whereas the sands are far on the side, and so you might only come into contact with like nomadic tribes every once in a while, and so you might be more distant, or at least as that upbringing might be more distant. You had to kind of learn that later, and so it could just jade that character, give you different ideas.
I got you. I think he's
Just something to
more
think about.
central. The rocks are calling to me. I think early on, maybe before a military career, he as you said before, like one of his jobs was construction, working with ants moving, like earth moving and things like that. He's just a big fella.
Big boy.
Does big fella stuff.
And then Matt, did you have a community that you were being drawn towards?
I feel like it's a little on the nose, but a bard would probably need to be seaborn or riverborn, lakeborn in this world. Waterborn.
Lakeview.
Especially because it is because of Golden Leaf. That's where you're going to learn.
And do you see? Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So with Golden Leaf, are you part of that community, or is that maybe something that you were trying to get to, or what is your relationship with that city?
I would say that if Golden Leaf is the mecca, right, the artistic mecca, then this character is a permanently struggling artist, playwright, actor that has been trying. Some success, but in that very small. In Chicago, they're called storefront. So storefront theater success, right? Like, not really making a living doing it, but honing craft, right? And like really living the lifestyle of the struggling artist, right? Just barely making ends meet, but also at the same time things just kind of happen to him. He just manages to pay rent, like find that last dime to pay rent, right? but yes, wants to obviously move up and get accepted as a company member for, the larger theaters in town. Would be a dream.
Is there any particular reason that he decided to leave Silkhaven? Was there an opportunity, or maybe someone he met that kind of convinced him to go and look for things elsewhere? Why did he kind of leave that dream to get him to make it in the city?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so Golden Leaf is the cultural and mercantile center of Silkhaven. Mm-hmm. Probably, I know what it is. It's probably a gig that he got to be on like a cruise ship. Like this world of a cruise ship. Mm-hmm. Great money, terrible job.
But he's going to get his equity card at the end of it, and so it's worth it.
He's going to get his equity card at the end.
And a lot of communicable diseases.
And tons.
Just riddled.
What could go wrong?
Just riddled with disease and gross. But I think it was like, it's kind of first real example of, oh yeah, this can just be hard, fun, but also sucks at the same time. Yeah, how does that sound so far?
I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
And with AK, I know you said you had some ideas on names. Matt, did you have any names that were starting to come to you, or do you need some more time to sit on it?
I'm doing a little
Sparky?
thinking. I think that, well, honestly, I was thinking like
Corky.
Well, close. Like his name would be Arthur something. I don't really know what a good ladybug name would be necessarily, like as far as naming, but he would have a nickname that did not seem to match him at all. And like people are always trying to figure out why.
Man-bug.
So, Man-bug, Blitz.
Gentleman bug.
Or Bash or something like that, but that's his nickname, right? Like he has a stage name.
Bash, actually, that's kind of cool.
Zap.
Bash.
Good.
Zing. I don't know, yeah.
Fitz,
I love it.
I thought of a character that you might want to play more than a rogue moth.
Okay.
Although I don't know if our GM will allow it.
Okay.
But just hear me out here.
All right.
A zombie ant who is host to a fungal cordyceps being. Who's being robo-driven.
We've unlocked the fun girl.
We unlocked the fun girl.
maybe that's arc 2 of this. Uh-huh. But just
you guys,
put that in the back. If you don't do that, I'm going to do it.
Until at least the 3rd episode.
That right there, that idea is the 3 kobolds in a trench coat of this world. Yes. Like that's 2 characters in one.
It really is. It slowly transitions from one to another.
Firestorm of Daggerheart characters. Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, that's good. I do love that. I love the idea of playing the fungus that's driving the ant.
Yeah.
That's so metal.
It's a secret way to get in her little mushroom.
That's how you get the
Without
little
having to
mushroom
start
out
that
of this.
I love that.
Okay, when this character dies, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
So this rogue, I'm telling you, man, I officially. This also makes decisions for me. My goal is gonna get this character killed so I can unlock the fun grill and play the
episode.
Being
gonna fling herself off a cliff.
I absolutely am.
And what we're doing is still just the first chapter of this. And so this world expands far beyond what we will get to in this kind of introduction to this. And so if I'll certainly be running more games of this if you ever want to bring in other characters or kind of see different perspectives of this. So keep those other ideas locked in.
Oh man, haven't you really?
It's really good.
And I do kind of want to that now.
I have a little more detail on why Marrow left, if anyone wants to hear that.
Yeah.
So the idea is at some point Marrow was leading an expedition deep into the caverns. Ants, as their kind of guardian, their escort, and kind of mining and earth moving and doing the stuff that he was familiar with as a worker. now he's not doing that work. Now he's protecting all of the other workers on this expedition, and they get so deep, like really unexplored regions of Silkhaven. It's kind of on the far rocky regions, and it's completely uninhabited. But they find what looks to be like maybe writing, evidence of life that they have never seen before in a language that they don't understand. And the expedition, the workers, start to hear voices coming up from the deep, and then Marrow hears it as well. And they're all terrified. They don't understand what it's saying, but they know that they need to seal it off. This area, like they just have this feeling in their core of their being that this is wrong. And it's at that point that there is, as they start to seal off this part, that there's a cave-in. And Marrow's expedition is lost on the other side of an impenetrable, just tons of mountain have fallen down and separated them. And presumably, they're presumed dead. And if they aren't, then there's, no one was going to be able to get to them for some amount of time. It was a source of great shame for him, losing this. And led to demotion, retreat, just kind of emotional and social retreat, and then ultimately just kind of self-exile. How's that?
Love it.
Love it. It's creepy. It's sad. I love it.
Yeah, creepy and sad.
Creepy and sad.
And with that, with everybody kind of having rough ideas on their ancestry, community, and class, so the community has some new character questions. And so these can kind of be opportunities for you to ask yourself different questions to kind of get more or deeper into that character that you're welcome to look at. And you can kind of, the suggestion is to try and like pick one or two of them to replace the existing character questions that Daggerheart has. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that right now. If something is speaking to you and you'd love to use it to kind of express something that you've come up with to maybe inspire other people, please share. But I'm actually going to skip over those for now and shift down to the classes. For each of the classes, it's got kind of a list of these connection questions. And so in Daggerheart, they typically have these questions to kind of build relationships and build history with the party. And here we kind of take that even a step further and kind of build to like heroic deeds and terrible sacrifices that will come with the long history of being adventurers. And so this is kind of how we'll start to build the connections between these characters.
Do you guys, were you thinking that this group has been together for a minute?
I always think that's fun.
Yeah.
But
May I suggest that
Yeah.
you probably met Marrow by hiring him as a mercenary is kind of a 4-letter word, but that's basically what he is. He's a gun for hire. But you were surprised that you kind of liked him. Didn't expect to. Guns for hire, kind of not always likable.
And it's probably unique too, because while Silkhaven, it's all Fae, you guys have been in the world for a long time where there are tons of different ancestries and tons of different actual, whether it's dwarves or humans or whatever exists in this world. And so seeing another Fae it creates an immediate connection and creates an immediate like interest for maybe establishing that relationship for whatever reason you might have needed a gun for hire.
It's like Lil Kim said. Been a lot of places, seen a lot of faces. Oh, hell, I even fuck with different races. Is it like that?
Yes.
We'll cut that out.
It's exactly like that.
Nope. That's the short that's getting pulled out, Evan. That's not getting edited out. That's getting pulled out.
Sorry. I mean,
every single time that you say
Highlighted.
Every single time you say, "Oh, we're gonna take that out," I mean, every time. Like,
Hey,
basically,
Lil Kim, man.
yeah.
Should we decide how we know each other? Like, because I don't feel Like I can start answering questions until like I know how we're connected as a party.
That's fair.
Oh, sure.
Should we try and maybe do that first and then ask questions? Because
I would say we probably met in a tavern, maybe.
We can do better than that. I am positive that we can do better than that.
Oh, it's a fairy tavern.
Fae
There it
Tavern.
is, Fairy Tavern.
The one place in town where all the Fae meet up in the treetops. So, AK, for your character, what were they doing or how did they leave Silkhaven that might have brought them into contact with the others? Since we know about Marrow.
Yeah, so I believe that my character's name will be Selwyn. And I think that Selwyn... Okay, so you mentioned
Selwyn.
Wanderborn.
Marriage.
You mentioned Wanderborn, like basically like the hippie communes, like the, right? And if I am going to go, it sounds like Druid. Then like Selwyn is beginning to take shape as this, you know, hippy dippy woo woo flower child. I'll try and make her dark though, okay? And I had, you know, the thought that I had was that she had this kind of like brush with death, this awareness that she shouldn't be here. And that's what's kind of called her to Silkhaven. Like something feels familiar. There's this whisper on the wind that is beckoning her forth. And like what I was thinking about is that maybe there was like this ritual gone wrong, almost like what was supposed to be like a fun ritual. And she comes to, and like her friends or whoever was doing the ritual with her were like, you were dead or whatever. Or maybe she like stumbles back to the town. Like she wakes up in the middle of the forest, like a few days later, and you know, the shock on people's faces as she flies in, like, we thought you were dead, right?
On this night of ritual.
Right? I'm
Yeah,
trying to
right?
make it dark for you guys.
Make it ghost.
I'm trying to make it dark.
And is that something that happened? Is that something that happened in Silkhaven that caused her to leave, or is that something that happened when she was
I think
outside?
it's something that happened when she was outside, and then has almost been similar to Marrow, like felt a bit of an outcast sense, and maybe it's like whatever's going on in Silkhaven like pulled her in, like, I'm gonna go investigate this. And I'm wondering if that is the point at which I would have met up with if we're playing it as like, what are you gonna go with, Bash, Matt? Have you decided on a name?
I think I'm leaning towards Rex.
Okay, so like I wonder if when she came back in, this is when I would have met up with Rex and Guy, and then whatever shenanigans we decided to get into, that we had to hire some muscle that led us to Marrow. So that's what I'm trying to think of, is like, what is the thing? So I've now come back to town because I'm feeling this pull that I can't explain. How do I meet Rex and Guy? How do I know a Guy? I'm going to say that so much in this little campaign. You have no idea.
Yes.
You have no idea what chaos you brought.
Oh, I do.
I did almost, by the way, almost go sorcerer for this, just because, like, the idea of being like a little wanderborn chaos gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I still could be talked into that, but it sounded like druid was.
I mean, the druid has unleash chaos. Is like one
Then
of
so
their-
does sorcerer.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that they share. Then you better believe I will be taking that domain card.
Yeah.
So with all of that, did anything, Fitz and Matt, like stand out as like ways we could have formed a party?
Maybe I'd heard rumors as an occult guy. Maybe I'd heard rumors of this, like, didn't die firefly, and I had to check it out. Yeah, maybe I was specifically, like, hunting you down a little bit as a curiosity, and stayed in the tavern that is kind to Faye. And maybe our friend here was doing a set, and I liked your vibe.
Yeah, I think he could have been doing a set, but I'm also thinking, like, if there was a chance for sort of a port stop, where the ship would just kind of dock for a while, and this was the friendliest looking tavern in town.
I feel like we all got real wasted in this tavern together, and like woke up the next morning and realized like we were the new tavern owners, or like we had sworn some kind of like blood oath.
We sang one too many Journey
Maybe
songs at karaoke, and
Yeah, something happened. What was supposed to be.
And maybe I can yes and that and propose, like, maybe you guys all met up, or talking about how great life could be, or how what you could do, and like signed up for a quest that like Marrow was a part of, or that was connected to, or you realized that you needed some buff strong guy, and then woke up the next morning and realized, oh shoot, we're assigned for this, we have to do it now.
Yeah.
Oh.
And maybe Marrow is that kind of reason, that accountability that holds you to it, said, hey, you guys signed up for this, you got to do it. And then it worked out, and you decided to do the next one and the next one.
First off, how much does it pay? And it pays so much more than the cruise ship, the cruise boat. That I'm just like, well, I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be back on the ship at 6 a.m.
oh, I'm sorry, buddy. It's already 7. That ship is gone.
That ship has sailed quite recently.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
When you
It
guys,
is 2 p.m., sir. You missed your boat by about 8 hours.
when you guys met,
That's
Marrow,
all right.
you
They
were
won't
so
miss me.
drunk
It's fine.
that you weren't able to see through his disguise. Like he got traveling around as a fae he found in the world filled with other ancestries. He wasn't always comfortable, so he started disguising himself as a dwarf, which is like a really bad, like Santa style beard. Like, just imagine a bug dressed up like Santa Claus, and that was basically his idea of disguising himself as a dwarf. But you guys were you were so blitzed, you totally thought he was a dwarf.
So
until
we're
you
like
woke up the
looking
next
for a
day.
dwarf, and we can't find this
Right.
dwarf.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Where is he? Where he left us? He stiffed us. But he was excited to find 3 others from the homeland.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we'll return to
Yeah.
Evan's
Yeah.
first question, and then we can kind of kick in to everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When my shield finally drops, what will I have left? What part of life outside of battle do I long for but struggle to embrace? And when have you tried to help me see that?
It's kind of a complicated question, because I believe that the part that you long for is family. Is a stable home of loved ones. Maybe you really crave children. And by hanging out with you and by regaling you with my ridiculous stories and experiences, where I say over and over and over again that I don't need family, that I love just going out, and that, just give me a stage, some paper, and a quill, and I am like set. You more and more you realize, oh wow, I don't want that. I want to have a family. And you also realize that Rex obviously came from a wonderful family.
Okay.
He came from he doesn't have any bad feelings from, he doesn't he almost came from a sheltered little experience. And so in trying to tell you about the excitement of the great world of art and experience, all he's done is made you want more of that. Indirectly.
And I will say one thing that I forgot to mention with these character connection questions is that they are a lot deeper and kind of more connected than the traditional ones.
Yeah.
So feel free to yes and have collaborative aspects of this if you want to kind of tweak from your character's perspective as we're developing them.
Let's see, who do I want to ask?
Oh no, I didn't write down your name, AK.
Selwyn.
We are ink stains on destiny's pages. What prophecy, omen, or whispered legend suggests that we are fated for something greater. And do you believe it?
I think that you and I must share a marking on our wings.
Uh-huh.
One of your dots is not a perfect circle.
Uh-huh.
And I bear the same marking in the same place on one of my wings.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, should it be like really specific and an actual crescent? An actual crescent, like a crescent moon, and that is, I've always thought it was super cool because my name is Coche Luna, which is kind of like red moon in kind of fake Italian, I'm sure.
Fey Italian.
But fake.
So do I believe whatever it is? Whatever it is, hell yes. Like, Selwyn believes it. But what do we think? Like, so there's do we know? Or is that part of our quest to, like, find?
Yeah, I don't think we know. I don't think that we know. I think that Rex doesn't believe it, but he pretends to because it makes him even more interesting. But if he was really pressed, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's just kind of part of my personality."
Yeah.
Like it's also a source of his insecurity.
Yeah. Interesting.
But is it true? Who actually knows?
Is it true?
I know one person who probably knows. That's Austin. Hopefully.
All right.
If I don't now, I'll figure it out.
Yes, that's right.
I love it.
All right, AK,
Yeah,
do you want to
I'll
direct a
one to
question?
Guy. My question for you is, not all fires warm and not all storms cleanse. When did my command of nature go terribly wrong, bringing unintended destruction? And how are you caught in the devastation?
Oh, snap. It's gotta be lightning, for sure. You know? Maybe I didn't necessarily take your lightning bug thing literally, and I was a little too close. And you were like, maybe you didn't see me because I was in the shadows. Maybe a little too close to something that was dangerous that you were going to eliminate. And you lit up the sky, crackled down some lightning, and it was like sticking my finger in a toaster oven.
Yeah.
Like, just got a little zapped.
Yeah. Did anything change for you? Do you think do you now have some like ability or quirk that you did not have before?
Oh.
Did it?
Or physical scar or
Yeah.
loss?
Actually, that's good because maybe because the moths are skinned as the Dracona. So maybe, and I had, when we're choosing that section, I was like, that doesn't make any sense for me to have some sort of elemental thing. So I did a custom lineage and chose something else. But now I'm like, maybe I just stick with the basic and do that. And now I've got
basic.
like, I don't know, maybe I like fart lightning now or something because he's at me. Maybe not
Well,
fart,
only
I
when
don't
you're
know.
trying to be stealthy.
Yeah. when I'm a little nervous, I let out a lightning squeaker every now and then.
I'm not writing that in my notes. Am I now she lightning or now they lightning toot?
The lightning.
Light your own toots.
That's right.
And with that maybe new lightning powers, did that change you physically at all? Did you get different colors? Did you get a scar? Did you lose a wing or a limb or an eye? Did anything change physically about you to represent that new
I've got
power?
a sick ass scar. And I've got one milky white eye right across my face.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to continue going in a circle because that's kind of what we've been doing on my screen anyways. So I'm going to ask Evan. So for Marrow, mine is, I walked into the darkness and nearly didn't come back. When did I take my abilities too far, nearly losing myself in the shadows, and how did you pull me back?
Now, are you kind of more of a steely type of rogue or a stabby, murdery type of rogue?
Or dark powers.
Dark
Yeah.
powers.
Dark powers.
Because Daggerheart does that.
Dark powers. For sure.
powers.
Yeah.
Check 'em and
I've
see.
tapped- You know, I've dabbled in the darkness that I'm trying to discover.
Okay.
The night.
So there's like a very strong occult kind of thread vein
Yeah.
going through Guy. Okay. I would say this would probably be a few of our adventures in. You know, we would have known each other fairly well by this point. And it's pretty common knowledge that Guy has an interest in things that are pretty dark, and I think it's a little bit triggering for Miro because of what he experienced down in the depths, and he can't unhear this voice. And there's something about Guy and their fascination with the unknown and the darker side of the unknown that just brings him back to that place, that tunnel where he lost his wards and friends. So I think particularly on this one adventure, whatever we were doing, as Guy has leaned in and embraced this fascination more and more, and it started to manifest itself in powerful ways, I think Miro doesn't necessarily have a problem killing, but he doesn't enjoy killing, and he would never do it unless he had to, right? But there's something about this fascination with Guy that seems to kind of make them... There's something about killing that they enjoy. They started killing people they didn't need to. Who didn't... and I think there was a moment where on one of our adventures, Guy was kind of in the middle of almost a barbarian style bloodlust and just dispatching baddies left and right. And the more souls you collected, the more drunk you became, until you came across a child. And Miro stopped you in the nick of time.
Okay. See you later. Bye. No, that's so creepy, and I like it.
What fun. What a fun little crew, y'all.
Yeah, so this portion of the map, this is not all Silkhaven, but this is kind of the western entrance to Silkhaven. And so this is the portion that we'll be going through in this game. And so it may not be where you're from, but I'd like to have each of the players add at least something to these locations. And so I'll talk a little bit about what is there and the kind of rough bounds, and then you guys can feel free to yes and or to elaborate or expand. So the entrance, the kind of main entrance, goes through these kind of rock spires that have been formed into this fort known as Fort Shroud. And it is kind of the bastion that protects the large stone entrance into Silkhaven. And kind of cascading down this main entrance, you can either turn one way and get to that industrial hub of Tabeboro, where all of this artifice and industry and mercantile is, or you can go the other way to the grindery, which is very much the opposite and is much more traditional, and it kind of got its name from being like known to be a place of like smiths, so like blacksmiths and metalworking, woodworking, kind of this very traditional rural like feel that is kind of the down the back roads from the large part of the large city that most people kind of go to first. And then the colony is what actually supports both of those. And so the colony is named that because it's it used to be the termite colony, and it's kind of grown a little bit beyond that. But it's very, very basic kind of like wooden houses, basic ramshackle fortifications, but it's all devoted to mining materials to fuel either the kind of smiths and rural lifestyle, or the industry of Tadeboro. And so it's just kind of constantly pumping materials up to those two cities. There is kind of a small group that has kind of set up a little bit beyond Fort Shroud, and they do kind of have this kind of tunnel between Tadeboro and that kind of small encampment, but there's really only a handful of houses out there. On the blue side, we have the Weavery. This is one of the few places that spiders roam, and so kind of one of those darkened corners, but known for a lot of things like textiles and linens and products that would, again, kind of be worked through the grindery and through the Tadeboro, but were kind of produced in a lot of that more weavery or linen type of nature. And then to the far west, we have kind of the open hills and a lot of ants. These are all like ant hills kind of nestled within this area. It's a wide open space, and it was known that the ants kind of had issues between with other queendoms kind of wanting that space, and a lot of people thinking that they never really utilized it to its full potential. And then finally, underneath that, as kind of a back corner, back edge of those who are kind of seen as weird or unusual. These are kind of the back alley places. It's not really a city, but there's kind of some buildings there. A lot of kind of wasps have ended up there, or like centipedes, these other type of fae that aren't always accepted as they are. In these kind of back places. And it doesn't really have a name yet. And so if anybody would like to suggest names for this space, they can, or elaborate on any of those. And so I'll turn it over to you guys in the last few minutes here, if each of you wants to kind of volunteer some sort of addition or piece to the map.
I feel like because it's us, I don't know where this goes yet. We can decide as a group. But we do need to have some form of hive. Like if we wanted to have like the hollow hive be part of the colony or something like that, like abandoned, almost like catacomb, former hatchery kind of vibe, is what I'm getting from that. That'll be my offering. So yeah, that could either kind of go in the kind of blue west mountain area, or like I said, like beneath the colony if we like.
Where would be like the shadier part of town? Like if a tourist found themselves here.
So
on the other side of the ant colony.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so there are shady parts of everywhere. I'd say if you want somewhere kind of central, the grindery is definitely the more rural kind of backroads area. But yeah, that far eastern section, that kind of place underneath the anthills, that's kind of where a lot of fae who didn't really have anywhere to go ended up, and it's not really policed, it's not really paid attention to. It's kind of that shadowy corner that everybody kind of forgets about and tries to ignore.
I want to name that area, and I want to call it the Bridges.
Because people can build a bridge and get over it, or because people burn them.
Ooh, those ghosts.
I was thinking that literally, like, you know, there would be in some sort of colony situation, or in an area that's maybe a little bit more haphazardly built, that there would be a lot of actual physical bridges made for like crossing from buildings to buildings, or maybe spider webs, or, you know, something like that, where it's like the infrastructure doesn't fully make sense, but that like the Bridges is where you go for information to make like back alley deals. Maybe if you're living rough, this is where you might find yourself.
I love it. And AK, with this hollow hive idea, is there any more you can tell me about that, or what you see that as?
Of course, we're all going for like the shady places, right? So I think that this was like at one point in time, like almost like the hatching grounds, right? And so there's all of of all manner of creatures. So there's all of these like husks and like fossilized, you know, egg sacs and things like that, that make an excellent hiding place to meet up for covert deals, things like that, you know, kind of up under the otherwise more bustling colony.
Maybe it's like whereas like maybe the Bridges is like you might get stabbed if you go there. Maybe the Hollow Hive is more of like where the kids go because it's kind of scary, or like, you know,
Let's go
that's
make
like
out in the Hollow Hive.
that's like make out point.
It's
yeah,
the make out point.
that's the make out
Sure.
point.
Yes. Yeah, less like you're going to go there and get stabbed,
I love
but
it.
more just like if you need a place that's a little bit hidden from cover, you'll probably be left alone there.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is the location above Tateboro again?
It's another unnamed place,
Yeah.
and so if you'd like to put a name onto it, you can. But it's really just a collection of like those people who really didn't want to be a part of the city. They kind of left.
The burbs.
Not necessarily your exiles, but yeah, those who had some sort of issue, or were kind of too old and too grumpy to be accepted anywhere else, and they kind of sat on the far edge
that Florida?
of protection.
That's
my
Winter
God.
Garden right there.
It's the villages.
Or maybe Maine.
Sorry.
The Bay Village.
Yeah, but it's very spaced out. There's only a handful of like cottages out here. What about you, Evan?
Yeah.
Any ideas for something you'd like to add?
It's I'd like to add the spot where Marrow led his expedition.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
it would be it's not actually depicted on the map. It's to the southwest, south, and even south and further west than the bridges. And it's called the Undervault, is just the general name for this whole region of unexplored cave systems. The specific area where the cave in and the writing was found has not been named yet, or maybe it's been named since Marrow left. He doesn't know, but at the time, it did not have a name.
Yeah, and with what Mara was doing, was there any? This expedition, was there anything that they were looking for, or were they trying to connect up different areas, or what was the original purpose of why they were down
I
there?
think initially,
Or was it just exploration?
a little bit of both. It was exploration, but kind of with kind of urban planning, right? Like expansion of Silkhaven and into new areas. So, and everything that comes with that, from new places to for housing, mining resources, all of that stuff.
And was that under the authority of kind of Queen Ariana, or was that a specific queendom that was trying to do that? Was it kind of above board? Was it sneaky? What were the politics around it?
It was definitely above board. I would say that it was of the Ants queendom, but Mara was assigned to them by Ariana as kind of their escort. So part guardian, part emissary, if that makes sense.
I love it. And then Matt, did you want to run with this kind of Caprini Green idea, or was there another idea that you had?
I kind of then became fascinated with the with that space above Tateboro. If I could, kind of also run with the Florida concept, where it would be much like a cruise ship. It would be where, bands and clown groups, improvisers, and other, very early artists would go and provide entertainment to communities. And I'm thinking especially like perhaps elderly communities.
So where circus performers live in their off season.
It could be that, but I was just thinking about all the gigs that you could take at like a retirement home.
It's time for my handbell concert, y'all.
I mean, I don't know. I get it. I'm sure that I don't know, Austin, whether you ever had to do any of those gigs. I certainly did.
A lot of hospice gigs.
So-
God. One time I did one time we did a clown show
Oh boy.
for the Red Cross.
Oh wow.
Oh boy! Wow, it's so real.
And the name of this place is Old Town.
Yes, with an E because it's fancy. 2 E's. There's an E
But
after
town,
old and
yeah,
an E after town.
Yep,
But it's
exactly.
not because the town itself is old.
No,
Just
it's
the
'cause
people who
live
live
there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just it's really on the nose. Wow. Yeah.
I love it.
That's pretty fun.
Husk. That area is known as Husk.
Husk.
It's where the dried up husks go to live. Those old cranky bastards.
Husk is what all the kids call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old
Husk.
Town.
There it is.
Or even Huskless.
Huskland.
It was Cocoon filmed here?
Husk.
So
What'd you
was
say?
Cocoon filmed here?
Oh,
'Cause now we're
yeah.
talking
Yes,
about
exactly.
husks.
Exactly. I mean,
steel.
it's an entire world that each and every one of us is going to, experience.
Well, we hope.
Some sooner than others, but it's life. It's like where Jerry Seinfeld's parents live. It's like. It's like the community home where you go do clown shows. I mean, if you think, I just loved the Florida idea, but for Southerners at least, Florida is not the South. It's no one claims the South. If you are above Florida, even in the South, it is unlike any place I have ever been. And of course, it's a beautiful retirement home for many, and also Disney, so it has all of this massive amounts of land that could just be bought up. But then, some weird.
I will just say
Miami?
that as someone from Alabama, I once went to a place called Panacea, Florida, and thought to myself, now them some rednecks.
Now there's some
as an Alabamian, I was blown away.
And that's a lot. That is saying a lot.
How,
Yeah.
yes. So,
Yeah.
Panacea, Florida.
So,
Bless.
So how we have Florida man, they're gonna
Husk
have
man?
just a
Husk
husk man.
yeah.
1,000%.
Love it.
Oh my god.
Who's like, now I'm already dreaming of my next character when Selwyn kicks in. It's
Yeah.
going to have to.
It's gonna be a fucking clown from Old Town.
Husker. Oh my God, they're the Huskers.
They're Huskers.
And my clown's going to play handbells.
Oh,
I'm just going to warn you.
goodness.
Yeah. Also, you've got to be strong as D. We will take you to some places that
You don't
as
wanna
a
go.
GM do not want to go.
Oh,
Too silly or something.
I know
So
when
just
this party dies,
be
it's
strong.
on like Donkey Kong. We're gonna have the two kobolds in a trench
just
coat.
the
That's
Huskers.
the
Put your
Fuggle
foot
ant,
down.
and then we're gonna have a Husker clown.
oh man.
No feelings will be hurt if you put your foot down. That's all I'm
It-
saying. If we
We will
destroy your
respect you.
beautiful world.
Marrow, who's just made of hit
And
points, will be the only
Honestly, that
Yeah, right.
honestly, that is what this game is attempting to do though, is to find those like whimsical, crazy characters and throw them into this dark world and see how they respond and how they can bring that light to the darkness and maintain that beacon of hope.
Yeah.
We'll throw in some buzzwords there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is in a nutshell kind of the major things that I wanted to get through.
I love this.
left. Love it.
I love it.
Love it.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in for our session 0. We'll
Oh.
see you with even more thought out, dreamed up characters very soon for session 1.
This is just.
Yeah, this is such a
This is just
rich
freaking
world. Love it.
beautiful.
Thank
It's
you.
just so cool. It's so cool. I want to read a book set in
Oh, no,
this
me too.
world. Seriously.
Already. I'm gonna play Hollow Knight
Yeah.
for sure. I'm getting.
I want to read.
Absolutely. The game is